Julian returned to America in the fall of 1931 with the doctorate he had pursued for more than a decade. The years in Vienna had dramatically increased his self-confidence, but they had also sown the seeds of a personal catastrophe that awaited him at Howard. Back in Washington, Julian set out to turn Howard into a center for true chemical research, something his predecessor had been unable to do. Burdened with teaching responsibilities, St. Elmo Brady had not published a single research paper in the 15 years since earning his Ph.D. Julian was determined this would not happen to him.
I am going to give every damned ounce of my energy towards plans to flood the chemical market with as much research as the days, hours, and my strength will allow.
He brought Josef Pickel over from Vienna, and the two went straight to work on a series of papers. When their first was accepted for publication, Julian proudly noted it was the first with a black chemist as senior author. Percy Julian was now America's preeminent black chemist, and at Howard, one of President Mordecai Johnson's rising stars. But Johnson had made many enemies in his 5 years at Howard. Soon, Julian would be caught up in university politics with disastrous results. The trouble began when Julian, at the president's request, goaded a white chemist named Jacob Chauhan into resigning. Chauhan retaliated by releasing to the local black press the letters Julian had written to him from Vienna.
Exotic.
Julian's accounts of his romances, his criticism of faculty members, suddenly it was all public. Ammunition to be used against Julian and Johnson by the president's enemies.
I have the prettiest girl in Vienna. Makes instant evidence.
Just as Julian's letters began to appear in the press, there was another bombshell. His laboratory assistant, Robert Thompson, charged he had found his wife and Julian together. Lawsuits flew between Julian and Thompson. When Thompson was fired for going public with his charges, he released the letters that Julian had written to him from Vienna.
It drank till 3 a.m. Edwin and I were all stewed, and the girls were...
Through the summer of 1932, the Baltimore Afro-American published letter after letter from the man the newspaper dubbed Howard's prize letter writer. Finally, under pressure from Johnson and the Board of Trustees, Julian resigned. It was the middle of the Great Depression. Julian was a chemist without a laboratory, a black man without a job. Only a year after his triumphant return from Vienna, the career he had worked so hard to build was in ruins. When all seemed lost, Julian's mentor, William Blanchard, threw him a lifeline, bringing him back to DePaul as a research fellow to supervise lab sections. It was a big step down from full professor and department chairman, but he had a lab again, and his research partner, Josef Pickel, would join him at DePaul.
In much of my life, I've had to pick up the broken fragments of chance and turn them into opportunity.
Over the next 3 years, 11 of the student projects Julian supervised would lead to papers in the Journal of the American Chemical Society.
11 undergraduate papers published in JACS out of a student body of that size was not only unusual for the 1930s, it would be unusual now. Julian took the talent in those students and put that institution on the map for undergraduate research.
DePaul's newest instructor left a powerful impression on undergraduate Ray Dawson.
He put on a grand show. He would come into his lectures in his white lab jacket with a flourish. He was oratorical in a way that some great scientist from London or Berlin might be. It was just a show, but a very good one.
Julian had finally found fulfillment, a place where he could teach and research. But when the local American Legion assailed the school for hiring a Negro who had been dismissed from Howard University, Julian was forced to stop teaching. He could stay on as long as his research grant lasted, but his days at DePaul were numbered. Everything he'd worked for was about to collapse again.
I decided I had to do things that would make people take more notice of me.
What he did was take on a high-stakes research project, one that would either make him or break him.